The top diplomats of the G20 are gathered in India's capital today, with the Russia-Ukraine war expected to dominate their discussions. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken will join the group in New Delhi, fresh from his trip to Central Asia. His Chinese and Russian counterparts also attending the talks, but Mr. Blinken says he has no plans to meet them as tensions linger. Ahead of the G20 talks, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov sat down with his Indian counterpart. They assessed the current security situation in the context of the Ukraine conflict. They also ironed out issues on the use of local currencies for settling trade. Mr. Lavrov is scheduled to meet his Chinese, Bangladeshi and South African counterparts later today. Reports say India will try to convince Russia and China to agree on a consensus on how to describe the war in Ukraine. But it clarified that while the conflict will be an important point of discussion, economic challenges created by this war will also be tackled. Issues such as terrorism and cryptocurrencies also on the agenda as well. Not attending the discussions, though, is Japanese Foreign Minister Yoshimasa Hayashi. He's caught up in a scheduling conflict, but he will join an in-person meeting of representatives from the Quad countries on Friday. And Rebecca Bundan reports live from Mumbai with more. Rebecca, India's Foreign Secretary earlier conceding that Russia's war in Ukraine will form a key topic at this G20 meeting. But he also stressed the need to look at the impact of that war. What could that entail?
Yes, that's right. Clearly, the Russia war in Ukraine is going to dominate discussions that take place at the G20 foreign ministers meeting. But on the other hand, the foreign secretary in India has said that it's really important to focus on the economic fallout as well. And that is something that he expects to happen. Now, that includes matters such as food and energy security. We've seen the impact that has taken place around the world because of the effects of the Russia's war in Ukraine, which has had that global economic spillover. And it's very important for India and other countries that is a topic that is discussed, given that these are matters that need to be addressed. And particularly for India as well, it has become a voice for developing countries known as the Global South. And the G20, with its presidency, is giving it a bigger stage to bring up a lot of these issues. So that means that there are several other topics that are on the agenda as well that it really sees as being very, very critical, including development cooperation, reforming of multilateral institutions, also cryptocurrencies, terrorism, climate finance as well. That's another topic that's very important for developing countries. But given the fact that there are all these divisions emerging that we're seeing within the G20 countries having different stances, for example, on Russia's war in Ukraine, including China and Russia, and even India has a neutral stance. So this is exposing some of those divisions. So we'll have to see how much attention some of these topics that are on the agenda actually get over the next day or so. All
right, Rebecca, of course, at these gatherings is not just the main discussion. There are also bilaterals that can be very, very important. India's foreign minister has held some of these meetings on the sidelines of this main meeting. Anything came out of those talks?
Yes, that's right. So these bilateral meetings will be taking place alongside the main meeting that's due to be held on Thursday. And there have already been a few of these meetings that we know about. We have heard that S. Jaishankar, who's India's foreign minister, has met his counterpart, his British counterpart, and they were discussing matters including the raids that took place the tax raids that took place last month on the BBC's offices in Delhi and Mumbai. That was something that came up between them. Apparently, it's reported that India said that all companies have to comply with India's laws when they're here. We also know that they did discuss more positive, bilateral issues, given the fact that the UK and India have been working on their trade relationship. They've been developing a much stronger bilateral relationship. And we also know that S. Jaishankar, India's foreign minister, met his Russian counterpart as well, Sergei Lavrov. They discussed the security situation. They also talked about currencies, settling trades in local currencies. And again, that's a controversial matter given the fact that India has been importing oil from Russia.
Thanks so much for joining us. Rebecca Bundan reporting live there from Mumbai.